Cyclone Alfred, it's a storm that just won't go away on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for March 7th. Alfred still the main show on offer right now, which is stalling just off the coast of southern Queensland and the northern part of New South Wales, Australia. It's been imposing itself for a long time now, and still landfall is possibly another 24 hours away, but maybe a little bit less. Code yellow right now, not just for that system, but another one in the southwest Indian Ocean, which we're going to tell you about in a sec. 86 days until Atlantic hurricane season, and the general picture is pretty quiet, at least in the tropics, but a little bit of weather going up there in the United States towards the northeast, a front moving out to sea at this point. In the eastern Pacific, there's also a line of showers there affecting the southern part of Baja California, also moving into northern Mexico and trailing into the United States, Texas, northwards through the Great Plains. Elsewhere though, it's looking pretty quiet. In the western Pacific, we have a few areas of disturbed weather, a few thunderstorms really, a little more than that to be honest, off the northern tip of Mindanao in the Philippines down towards the southern part of Leyte and Samar. Some more clouds also around Palau and in that region of the Philippine Sea. North Indian Ocean looking very quiet indeed, hard to even pick out a thunderstorm there actually, maybe one or two off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, but in the main bulk of the basin there is very little at all to report. So it's the southern hemisphere making up the numbers once again, a 90% chance pretty much about to form this system that's approaching Madagascar. We're quite concerned about what might happen later on in the forecast in the Mozambique Channel, and a newly we've designated a new tropical depression there. It's not official at this point, but we are calling that a new TD out there over the Indian Ocean. It should stay out to sea. Alfred there just off the coast of eastern Australia, of course very close to Brisbane still at this point, included in the Cyclone Warning, and obviously trending just that little bit closer to land. It is excruciating, isn't it? Cyclone Warning from Double Island Point, Queensland, down to Grafton, New South Wales. 154 kilometres from Point Lookout, it's the closest point of land to the storm centre. 165 from Tweed Heads, 170 from Gold Coast, 203 from the centre of Brisbane, and 309 from Toowoomba. So in miles, that is just underneath 100 miles now up to its landfall point. So it's getting closer and closer to land, and still we're not sure exactly where it will land when the time comes. Let's check in on the latest satellite imagery, and it's showing a good account of Alfred right now on the latest Himawari 9 visible, and you can see that most of the coastline there is now shrouded in the cloud cover from the storm. Points some significant convection around it, especially near the centre, which is still holding on there. Clearly still a tropical cyclone, although it has been all over the place with regards to its tropicality. But what this really means is that those winds still hovering at around 50 miles per hour at least, 80 kilometers per hour sustained, will continue probably all the way until landfall, and maybe even a short window of intensification in the next 6 to 12 hours after this broadcast, depending on exactly what happens with the storm. Now, the models are still all over the place as well as to what exactly the track the storm will take. The Bureau of Meteorology is calling for a landfall further north towards Bribie Island, but at this point the modelling would suggest that it might end up being further south and possibly straight through the middle of Brisbane, or maybe slightly north of there. Well, in the latest imagery, as we look at it here, the western side looks like it's breaking apart a bit again there, but still decent convection compared to what we were looking at just over 24 to 36 hours ago, when it was really struggling for any convective activity at all. So it will be dropping significant rainfall. Radar returns on really looking quite a bit better as we look at this imagery here as well. You can find all this on the Force 13 website, live imagery, but at times the rain is diminishing there in between different bouts of heavier falls. Well, this is what's left of Cyclone Honde down in the southwest Indian Ocean. That's moving way out into the extratropical zone. That is long gone. And this is the new tropical depression that we've designated. Can't really get a very good look at it there on this imagery, but it's towards the bottom of the picture. ASCAP found a closed center of circulation, and it looks like there is just about the required convective pattern by the looks of things, so that's why we've gone ahead and called it a tropical depression, slowly moving westwards. Here's the other system, the one near Madagascar. We checked this one out as well. Only 30 mile per hour winds roughly in this system at this point, and it's trying in the early stages of trying to get a center of circulation, but still a very long way to go for that one. No sign of development yet, but it looks like it will happen. Very good agreement on the forecast. Here's the region off the US East Coast, and now we're looking at the Eastern Pacific because I wasn't there in time, but basically what I was talking about in the opening summary. A few trots moving along, and in general not too much going on in the areas that we're interested in. Western Pacific, a few clouds there being thrown across the coast of northern Mindanao in the Philippines, and a line of clouds out towards the east there. Here's a look at the infrared wide shot of the southwest Indian Ocean, showing that main invest there, 90% in the center of the screen, and that depression off to the right hand side, which it is looking much better on that imagery as well. Looking across Australia, you can see Alfred not looking quite so good on the infrared when you look at the zoomed out picture, it has to be said. Some big thunderstorms there over the top end of Australia as well, and a small disturbance in the Coral Sea. In the South Pacific, this is what things are looking like here. In general, a few little areas of disturbed weather, but nothing really significant. Maybe some sustained thunderstorms over the Solomon Islands. While sea surface temperatures are still obviously going to be starting a very slow rise now, just after their yearly minimums in the Atlantic there. Still warm waters in the Caribbean at times though. Western Pacific also got a big belt of warm waters there, extending across the Philippine Sea through to the South China Sea. Temperatures are over 28 degrees Celsius in a few spots there, including near Guam. Southwest Indian Ocean. The best spots there are still to the northeast of the Mascarene Islands, where that disturbance has been in the last day. Obviously didn't take advantage of that, but over 30 degrees Celsius in one or two spots. But the best place to be is still off the northern reaches of Australia, from Western Australia through to the Gulf of Carpentaria. Temperatures still 32 degrees in a few spots there. And where Alfred is right now, looks like there's a bit of a glitch there. Looks like there's a massive warm spot. I can tell you it's not really there. It's only 26 degrees, barely enough for a tropical cyclone. Compared to average, those oranges are above average, so most of the region in the Indian Ocean is conducive when you look at those temperatures. You can clearly see a cool trail after Alfred there off the east coast of Australia. Western Pacific above average as well. Looking at the oceanic heat content, there's still quite a bulk of it there in the Western Pacific too, so a fair bit of energy coming into this upcoming season, and even the Eastern Pacific's joining in with a little bit there as well. Certainly quite a bit more than what we've seen at this very early stage of the season in previous years. Might that mean something later on? We'll have to see. Now in the South Pacific, still a few spots there as well, although a big gap where Alfred has been travelling. That certainly sucked up a lot of the energy there, but areas around Vanuatu towards Fiji still looking highly conducive in terms of oceanic heat content as well as those temperatures. So this is the GFS computer model out to the next 5 days, where you can see Alfred there starting to turn towards the northwest a little bit. No real signs of that happening yet on that satellite as we were looking at there. It's pretty much stalled, possibly southeast if anything, but very, very slowly. But really it could move any direction from here. GFS northwest landfall looks like it's over Redcliffe there, and then moving inland, although the European model ECMWF has a landfall slightly later. That would be afternoon I think on Saturday now, a little bit further north from there. And this is the Indian Ocean looking out over the next 5 days to these two tropical cyclones, the ones that we've been watching, and both of them become pretty prominent. You look at them there, probably a category 2 on the right hand side Saffir-Simpson scale, and the western system, after it moves through Madagascar, is a relatively weak system. It really bombs out there over the Mozambique Channel, really gets very close to Mozambique, hugging the coastline there as a category 3 at least, and then possibly getting stronger as it leaves. And this is the rainfall expectation now for obviously the areas affected by Alfred, which is not just southern Queensland but down into significant parts of New South Wales as well. Some of the more mountainous regions will be getting up and above probably 4 or 5 inches of rainfall, which is over 100 millimeters. But around the Brisbane area, just a tiny bit south of Brisbane by the looks of things, we're looking at getting up towards 18 inches of rainfall, which is 450 millimeters, and that is on top of anything that's already happened so far, with obviously numbers falling down either side of it. So some really significant amounts when we look at that rain chart. Well, in the longer range, this is day 5 through 10. There's that landfall, very powerful landfall in Madagascar from that cyclone that really blows up in the Mozambique Channel, pressure into the 940s millibars, which obviously makes it a very powerful cyclone. GFS has been hinting at this a few times in the last few days, and then subsequent runs it didn't sustain it, and then it's come back again on today's run. So we'll have to look out for consistency on that one, but a big question mark and warning sign there for that region. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where we have all of our usual items. And of course, it's our 1000th Tropical Weather Bulletin. We did it. We're now at 1001 and we're running a Tropical Weather Bulletin-thon starting on Saturday at 12 UTC. We'll be running 717 of our bulletins back to back on the channel. Wow. Well, in the silly range, that's day 10 to 16, very far out, so not too much to look at here. In fact, the models don't really develop anything apart from that tiny system there in the Indian Ocean. Really sticks out just how small it is compared to other ones. You see the extratropical remnants there of that current system or up-and-coming system there down off Madagascar, and then this new system doesn't affect any land areas and really is the only thing active in the GFS model in that long-range period. Well, on this day, it was another system in that same area, but had already embarked on a massive strengthening trend, and it was Cyclone Honde back in 2017. Just about to make landfall as a borderline Category 5, 155 miles per hour is what we went with in post-analysis, although operationally I do believe we called it a Category 5. Fernando also became a brief tropical storm in its first phase on this day back in 2017, and what was left of Blanche moving into Australia. Can you believe it? That was 8 years ago, and we were doing regular updates on particularly Inawo out of those 3. Well, back to today, a completely different set of storms. The Atlantic hurricane season upcoming will begin with Andrea in the Eastern Pacific, Alvin, and in the Central Pacific it will be Iona next up. 18 storms so far around the world. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Wu-Tip. The North Indian Ocean will see Shakti up and coming next. Of course, in the Australian region, if you're wondering about the next storm, we've already got bored of Alfred. Well, it's going to be Courtney in the Southwest Indian Ocean. The next name there is Yvonne, and in the South Pacific, it will be Tam. So we could see a couple of those Southwest Indian Ocean names coming up shortly, based on what's currently happening. But that's it from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.
Become an ultimate fan today.